tonight? Everybody doing all right? Yeah. So Lent's right around the corner, and so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm not a religious man, but I do like to participate from year to year. So I actually take notes on the matter, and I prepare them every year because I don't want to cross any paths. I don't want to upset the God. So this year I was looking through my notes from last year, and last year I gave up pornography for 6 weeks. Which, the funny thing about it is in doing so, I actually got addicted to hookers. So they say that God's got a plan for everybody. It's a pretty damn good plan there, God. Thanks, sir. So last year on Easter, I'm sitting in my bathroom, and there's a prostitute with me, and I'm getting a blowjob. And I'm taking a shit. So for all of you that aren't familiar with that, yeah, blowjob. They're great things, man. That's when you take the shit and you get a blowjob. So, it's a good thing. So ladies, take note, it's a great thing. Two good things at the same time. It's kind of like bacon wrapped around that fillet. Delicious. So she's going at it, right? She's going at it. She's about done. And I'm like, you know what? If this lady's going to give me a blowjob, I bet you she'll check her hair and wipe my ass. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. So I throw down like $5 on the counter, and I'm like, hey, if you wipe my ass, this is yours. So she takes the $5, and she gets ready to wipe my ass, and when she goes down to do it, she looks in the toilet, she just starts yelling. She's like, holy shit! And I'm like, whoa, what's wrong? What's wrong? Is there blood in it? And she's like, no, look at it. I'm like, what is it? She's like, your turd kind of looks like Jesus. I'm like, what the fuck? Jesus. So I look at her for a little bit, and she's like, what do you think? What do you think? I'm like, only if the turd rises is it a holy shit. So I was just joking around when I said this, and right when it happened, the turd rose to the top of the toilet bowl. It was like, oh. So she starts freaking out again, and she calls her mother. Her mother's actually a nun at the local parish. So she shows up and walks in. She looks in the toilet, and she's like, oh my God. She's like, Jennifer, you brought me all the way over here to look at this man's poop. Are you smoking messages? All I can think is, Jennifer, she's been calling herself Rose for the last 2 months. Lying bitch. So her mom's freaking out about this thing, and she's like, it's a sign! It came from the heavens! Like, lady, that didn't come from the heavens. That came straight from my ass. So, I don't know, poo's a pretty funny thing. One of my favorite things about poo is the poo dollar. Anybody familiar with the poo dollar? I bet you this guy is. So, it's where you take a dollar bill and you wipe your ass with it after you take a shit. And when we were in college, we would take dollar bills, wipe our ass, run across the street, and just smack it right on the sidewalk, right into it. Then you would run back to base. Where like a mile of people would be standing there, and they'd be like, all right, let's wait. So some guy walks up and is like, I got $3. So he, bends over, grabs it, sure shit, everybody behind us like, $2! Drop it, man! So the guy drops it, and he's like, oh God! Takes off, right, washing his hands, right, crying. So, the funniest thing about the $2 when I was in school, I actually had somebody that told me, hey man, if you're ever going to store any drugs, make sure you do it with the crispy 20s and the 50s, because you might actually store up some poop articles if you do it with the dollar. He was a hell of a professor. So, I told my buddy's dad about this, and he couldn't believe it. He was like, man, that's fucking crazy, that's disgusting. So, he's laughing about it. So a month later, I see my buddy's dad, and he's like, yo, Timbo, you never believe what happened. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, I did a poo dollar. I'm like, okay, explain. He's like, well, it's different dogs, we work construction down in Cincinnati, right? I'm like, okay. So he's like, what they do is we go to the Porta John, take the shit, take a couple of dollar bills, wipe our ass, run back to the plywood we had set up, we put a big circle on it, and then put $3 with poop on it. And they slap it up in the middle of the right in the middle of the circle. So they couldn't even get these things off the Porta John to the plywood. They couldn't even, the phones were running up like, give me the dollar, give me the dollar. Like, back off, punk, you know the rules. Goes up in the circle. So, I don't know. It's just a funny perspective on things, the way you look at it. So I guess one man's treasure is another man's shit. So thanks very much, everybody.